Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're stepping into one of the most misunderstood nights in human history. The moment Christopher Columbus first saw land in 1492, believing he had reached Asia, without knowing he had just changed the fate of the entire world. In this deep sleep history story, we'll drift across the Atlantic under starlit skies, feel the warm sand of Guanahani beneath uncertain footsteps, witness the quiet meeting between Columbus and the Taíno people, and gently unfold the truth behind the discovery of America, not as a loud clash of empires, but as a slow human turning point that reshaped food, faith, power, and destiny itself. This is not a lecture, this is history for sleep. A calm, immersive journey through the real events of 1492, the rise of La Navidad, the beginning of the Columbian Exchange, the first fragile misunderstandings between worlds, and the silent consequences that still echo in our lives today. If you've ever wondered what really happened when Columbus landed, if you've ever wanted to experience the age of exploration, not as noise, but as atmosphere, tonight we slow it all down. We let the ocean breathe. We let the lanterns flicker. We let history speak in a whisper. So before you get comfortable, take a gentle moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if these deep sleep history stories help you find peace, sleep better, or simply reflect on our shared journey through time. Now, close your eyes. Imagine the Atlantic in 1492, the sails heavy with wind, the deck softly creaking beneath your feet. Somewhere in the darkness, a voice is about to cry, "Tierra," and everything is about to change. But for now, just breathe. Let the waves carry you. Let history hold you, and drift with me into the night. Imagine you are standing on a damp wooden deck. The Atlantic stretches into a darkness so complete, it feels almost gentle, like a heavy velvet curtain drawn across the edge of the known world. The wood beneath your bare feet is swollen with salt and age. It exhales the quiet scent of tar, rope, and old timber warmed by a day of sun that has long since disappeared. Above you, the sky is impossibly wide, scattered with patient stars that have guided sailors for centuries, long before anyone whispered the name Columbus. 1492. The ship creaks softly, not in protest, but in rhythm, like an old creature breathing in its sleep. This is the Santa Maria, rocking slowly, carefully, as if it too senses that history is holding its breath. Tonight, in this History for Sleep journey, we're not here to judge, not here to argue, but to drift. This is Bedtime History, a relaxing history documentary told in the hush between waves, where even the loudest events begin in silence. Listen closely. The sea does not roar. It murmurs, a low, endless conversation between water and wood. Somewhere below deck, a sailor turns an uneasy rest, his dreams tangled with rumors that the world might simply end beyond the horizon. In 1492, maps were fragile things, more suggestion than certainty. The edges of the known world were decorated with sea monsters and unanswered questions, and yet here they are, suspended between fear and ambition, between superstition and curiosity. Columbus himself is awake. He does not pace dramatically. He stands still. The night air brushes against his face, cool and salted.
his calculations, his promises to the Spanish crown, the weight of expectation from Europe in 1492, all of it presses against him like the vast ocean pressing against the hull. But on this deck, in this moment, there is only darkness in the quiet tapping of rope against mast. History often feels loud when we look back. We remember dates, consequences, the Columbian Exchange, civilizations interrupted, empires rising and falling. But the night before everything changed was soft. It was made of small sounds, the distant splash of something unseen, the gentle flap of canvas sail adjusting to invisible currents. If you close your eyes now, you can feel that contrast. The stillness is real. The storm of history has not yet arrived. Tomorrow will bring first contact, October 12th, 1492, and a collision of worlds that will reshape biology, language, belief, and memory. But tonight is different. Tonight is suspended. The crew does not yet know the scale of what waits beyond the horizon. They only know the fatigue in their muscles, the ache in their hands, the restless curiosity that has carried them 33 uncertain days across open water. This is the quiet before the wave. And as you listen, allow your own thoughts to slow. Let the ship's creaking become a metronome. Let the sea's whisper replace the noise of your day. In this relaxing history documentary, in this Columbus 1492 bedtime history, we're floating not toward conflict, but toward understanding. The night wraps around the Santa Maria like a blanket. The stars remain steady. Somewhere in the distance, land exists, though no one on deck can see it yet. And that is the strange comfort of this moment. The future is vast, but it is not yet here. For now, there is only the Atlantic breathing in and out, and you standing safely on this wooden deck of memory, drifting gently into sleep while history waits for dawn.
The night deepens, yet nothing dramatic happens, and that is precisely the point. History does not always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it waits in the quiet space between heartbeats. The Santa Maria continues its slow cradle across the Atlantic, wood pressing against water, water answering in patient rhythm. If you were there, you might notice how small the ship feels beneath the sky, how the constellations seem closer than any shoreline. Europe in 1492 feels very far away now. The crowded markets of Seville, the echoing halls of the Spanish court, the urgency of competition with Portugal, all of it reduced to memory carried in the minds of men half asleep below deck. This is Columbus 1492 before it becomes legend. This is history for sleep, not yet carved into textbooks, not yet divided into triumph or tragedy. The men aboard are not symbols. They are tired. Their hands are rough from rope burn, their lips dry from salted wind. Some have begun to doubt. 33 days at sea can stretch the mind thin. There were whispers earlier in the voyage, talk of turning back, quiet calculations about dwindling supplies. But tonight those tensions rest, folded into blankets and hammocks. The sea is calm, and calm can be persuasive. Columbus remains near the stern, his gaze steady, though his thoughts move in widening circles. He carries more than ambition, he carries belief, a conviction that west will become east, that distance can be measured, that the curvature of the earth is not a boundary but a bridge. Yet even belief trembles in darkness. In this relaxing history documentary, in this bedtime history told softly against the tide, we allow space for uncertainty,
because uncertainty is human. The sailors do not know that land lies closer than ever before. They do not know that within hours, shapes will appear against the horizon, faint at first, then undeniable. They do not know that October 12th, 1492 will ripple outward into centuries of change, into the Columbian Exchange, into movements of plants and animals and diseases and people across oceans. Tonight, there is only breath. If you listen carefully, you can hear it. The synchronized breathing of men asleep, the long exhale of wind easing through canvas sail, the Atlantic inhaling and releasing along the hull. The future is not yet visible, and that makes this moment almost tender. So often we remember what happened when Columbus landed in 1492 as a single dramatic turning point. But before turning points, there are pauses. Before collision, there is drift. The Taíno world rests unaware beyond the darkness, villages quiet beneath Caribbean stars, a civilization uninterrupted for one final night. Two worlds separated by water, both wrapped in sleep. There is something profoundly still about that symmetry. On one side, sailors suspended between fear and hope. On the other, island communities resting in rhythms shaped by seasons, fishing tides, and ancestral memory. The ocean keeps its secret a few hours longer. And as you float with this story, let the contrast soothe rather than disturb. The silence is real. The coming change does not need to be loud to be powerful. It is enough to acknowledge that we are here, in the space just before everything shifts. The deck beneath you is steady. The stars have not moved. The air is cool and forgiving. This is bedtime history. This is history for sleep, where even the most significant moments in Columbus 1492 begin as gentle swaying in the dark. Soon a lookout will call out into the night. Soon shapes will gather meaning, but not yet. For now, let your thoughts drift like the ship itself, carried by a current you do not need to control. Let the creaking wood become distant. Let the murmuring sea soften further. The dawn is approaching, but it is still hidden beyond the curve of the earth. And in this final stretch of night, before the world redraws its maps, you are safe, suspended in the quiet cradle of the Atlantic, drifting slowly, steadily into rest.
Europe in 1492 was not a continent of bright horizons. It was a continent of long shadows. As dawn slowly approaches the Santa Maria, as the Atlantic prepares to reveal what waits beyond the curve of the earth, we gently turn our gaze backward, away from the ocean, away from the promise of discovery, and back toward the crowded streets that pushed these ships westward in the first place. To understand what really happened when Columbus landed in 1492, we must first understand what he left behind. In this history for sleep journey, in this relaxing bedtime history of the age of exploration, we drift not across water, but across stone alleys slick with rain and refuse. Europe in 1492 was dense with bodies and belief. Cities like Seville and Genoa pulsed with trade, but also with tension. The air was thick not only with the scent of spices, cinnamon, pepper, clothes carried from distant lands, but with the sharper smells of livestock, unwashed streets, and smoke from hearth fires that rarely went cold. Church bells marked the hours, steady and insistent, their echoes bouncing between narrow buildings. Faith was not background noise, it was architecture, it was law, it was the invisible spine of daily life. The age of exploration did not begin with curiosity alone. It began with confinement. Kingdoms pressed against one another like restless neighbors. Borders were contested. Wealth was uneven. Gold and silver were not luxuries, they were survival in political form. And in 1492,
one event cast a particularly long shadow: the fall of Granada. In January of that year, the last Muslim stronghold in Iberia surrendered to Ferdinand and Isabella. The Reconquista, centuries in the making, had reached its conclusion. Flags were raised, prayers were spoken, the Christian monarchs stood triumphant. But triumph carries its own momentum. A united Spain did not suddenly grow calm, it grew ambitious. With Granada fallen, attention turned outward. The same energy that had driven armies southward across Iberia now sought direction beyond the sea. The context trap of history is subtle. When we look back, we see Columbus 1492 as a bold leap into the unknown. But for those standing in Europe in 1492, the unknown was not romantic, it was an exit. Markets were crowded, guilds controlled opportunity, younger sons inherited little. Merchants watched Portuguese ships slide down the coast of Africa, carving out trade routes towards spices and gold. Competition tightened like a drawn rope. The Ottoman Empire's expansion complicated Eastern trade. Familiar pathways to Asia grew more expensive, more uncertain. And so West became an idea not of fantasy, but of pressure release. Imagine standing in a stone courtyard at dusk. The air cools, but tension does not. You hear distant arguments about taxes, whispers of religious suspicion, rumors of opportunity across water. The church bells toll again, and their sound is not soothing, it is commanding. In this relaxing history documentary told softly for sleep, we allow ourselves to feel the weight of that world without judgment. The age of exploration was not born in a vacuum of pure wonder. It was born in a continent that felt small. Europe in 1492 was vibrant, yes, but also constrained. Knowledge was expanding, yet horizons felt close. Ships were not only tools of discovery, they were vessels of escape. And as the Santa Maria drifts toward dawn in our previous chapter, remember that it carries more than sailors. It carries the density of Europe itself, the crowded streets, the competing crowns, the echo of the fall of Granada, the hunger for gold, the hunger for God, all of it compressed into timber and sail, moving west not only toward new lands, but away from old limits.
As the first light of dawn stretches faintly across the Atlantic in our previous chapter, let us linger a little longer in Europe in 1492, not as a map of kingdoms, but as a feeling. Because what truly propelled the age of exploration was not only strategy, not only trade routes, but atmosphere. Imagine walking through a European port before sunrise. The stones beneath your feet are damp. A thin mist clings to the harbor, carrying the mingled scent of salt water and spice. Somewhere nearby, sacks of pepper and cinnamon are unloaded from a recently arrived ship, their fragrance sharp and almost intoxicating, reminders that wealth exists elsewhere, that somewhere beyond familiar horizons, fortunes wait. Yet around you, poverty presses close. Narrow streets twist between timber-framed houses, leaning inward as if whispering secrets. Windows are small, light is limited, space is rationed. Europe in 1492 is vibrant, but it is not spacious. It hums with ambition, but it also hums with anxiety. The fall of Granada earlier that year has shifted the emotional climate of Iberia. Church banners hang proudly, sermons speak of divine favor, and the language of destiny fills the air. Victory over Granada feels like proof that history bends toward those who dare, and daring becomes contagious. Ferdinand and Isabella now rule a unified Spain, and unity breeds momentum. The same hands that signed treaties and financed armies are now willing to finance ships. In this history for sleep telling, we do not rush through these facts. We let them settle gently.
because the decision to sail west in 1492 did not emerge from silence, it emerged from accumulation. Trade with the East had grown complicated and costly. Ottoman expansion reshaped access to long-established routes. Portuguese navigators were already exploring down the coast of Africa, claiming ports, mapping currents. Competition was not abstract, it was immediate. It lived in conversations between merchants and monarchs, in calculations scratched onto parchment by candlelight. Columbus was not inventing ambition, he was offering an alternative direction for it. The context trap is subtle and powerful. When we view Columbus 1492 from the safety of centuries later, we often imagine pure exploration, a bold step into the unknown. But for many in Europe in 1492, the unknown felt less frightening than stagnation. Younger sons faced limited inheritance. Artisans competed within strict guild systems. Religious conformity tightened under the watchful gaze of institutions newly emboldened by victory in Granada. The Inquisition cast long psychological shadows. Belief was central, but it was also monitored. To leave was not only to seek gold or spice, it was to seek space. And space is a quiet luxury. Stand for a moment in a stone cathedral. The air is cool and heavy with incense. Candles flicker, casting elongated shadows across carved saints. The bell tolls again. It marks time, but it also marks obedience. In this history for sleep, in this bedtime history woven softly for rest, we allow ourselves to feel that weight without condemnation. Europe in 1492 was a world of beauty and tension intertwined. Knowledge was expanding through print and scholarship, yet horizons felt compressed by politics and proximity. Ships in the harbor were more than wood and sail, they were thresholds. The Atlantic did not promise safety, it promised distance. And distance in a crowded world can feel like freedom. As the Santa Maria carries its crew toward dawn, it also carries the accumulated restlessness of a continent, the hunger for gold, the hunger for God, the hunger for recognition in a world where power was limited and tightly held. This is the atmosphere that makes the landing in 1492 comprehensible, not inevitable, but understandable. The old world felt dense. The new world, though unseen, felt vast, and sometimes even the thought of vastness is enough to set a sail. Let the mist over the harbor dissolve slowly. Let the church bells fade into memory. Let the scent of spice soften. In this history for sleep, we drift gently from stone streets back toward open water, carrying with us the emotional weight of Europe in 1492, understanding that the voyage west was not simply a leap toward something new, but a quiet exhale away from something confining.
33 days. No land in sight. Only blue without end. As we drift gently away from the crowded stone streets of Europe in 1492 and return once more to the open Atlantic, allow your mind to stretch toward that horizon. 33 days of uncertainty during the Christopher Columbus voyage. 33 mornings waking to the same color of water. 33 nights falling asleep to the same ocean sounds for sleep. The soft and patient breathing of waves against wood. The Santa Maria ship moves forward, but the scenery does not change. Blue above, blue below, a thin wooden line in between. At first, the repetition feels manageable. The sailors wake at dawn, adjust sails, check ropes, measure wind. Columbus records distances in his journal, careful, deliberate. He writes numbers that reassure. He estimates miles traveled west. He calculates currents. He shortens figures in the public log to calm the crew.
quietly keeping a more accurate count for himself. Even leadership in 1492 is shaped by psychology. The Christopher Columbus voyage is not only about navigation, it is about endurance. The ocean does not shout, it repeats. The same low splash against the hull, the same creak of the Santa Maria ship settling into its frame, the same endless line where sky meets water, neither advancing nor retreating. Day after day, the mind begins to drift in strange directions. Some sailors stare at the horizon until their eyes blur. Others count knots in rope or trace patterns in wood grain. Time stretches. 33 days become less a number and more a feeling of floating between what was left behind and what has not yet appeared. In this history for sleep, in this relaxing bedtime history of Columbus 1492, we allow the monotony to wash over us. There is power in repetition. The age of exploration, so dramatic in hindsight, was often defined by boredom in the present. The men aboard do not experience legend, they experience waiting. The ocean smells the same each morning, salt and damp wood. The wind tastes the same, slightly metallic, slightly cold. Occasionally, a bird appears overhead, a flicker of hope, a sign that land may not be impossibly far. Whispers travel quietly along the deck. Is that driftwood? Was that seaweed? Is the water shallower? Hope rises quickly, and just as quickly settles back into stillness. Columbus remains steady, but even steadiness requires effort. He studies the compass. He notes variations in magnetic readings, small shifts that spark curiosity and perhaps unease. The men notice too. Superstition moves faster than logic. 33 days at sea invites imagination. What if the earth stretches farther than expected? What if the ships cannot return? What if the ocean simply continues forever? At night, the stars offer comfort. They're constant, dependable. The North Star anchors direction. The constellations move predictably. In a world without visible land, the sky becomes the only map that feels stable. And beneath it, the Santa Maria ship keeps moving, cutting gently through the Atlantic. In this relaxing history documentary, the monotony is not something to escape, it is something to surrender to. Let the repetition of 33 days calm you. The same wave, the same wind, the same horizon. This is calculated boredom, yes, but it is also truth. The Christopher Columbus voyage was not a single dramatic leap. It was 33 days of uncertainty, measured in footsteps across a deck, in inklines across parchment, in heartbeats that alternated between fear and fragile hope. And as you listen, let your own thoughts slow into that rhythm. Let the ocean sounds for sleep blend with your breathing. The sea does not hurry. The horizon does not move. The ship continues west, steady, patient, uncertain. And so do we.
33 days continue to stretch, and with each sunrise, the horizon looks exactly the same. Blue meeting blue, as if the world has reduced itself to two colors and a narrow strip of timber in between. In this gentle history for sleep, we stay inside that repetition. We do not rush toward land. We remain within the uncertainty of the Christopher Columbus voyage, where progress is measured not by scenery, but by endurance. The Santa Maria ship glides forward, but the Atlantic offers no confirmation, no applause, no signpost announcing that history is about to turn. Instead, there is rhythm. Footsteps crossing the deck at predictable intervals. The scrape of a bucket. The soft snap of sail adjusting to wind. Ocean sounds for sleep wrap around the vessel like a living lullaby. Day 25 feels like day 12. Day 30 feels like day 3. Time folds in on itself. Columbus continues to write in his journal, and writing becomes an act of faith. Each entry marks another day survived, another stretch of westward movement. He records sightings of birds, floating vegetation, subtle changes in wind direction. These small details become anchors for hope. A branch drifting past can feel like a promise. A flock of birds at dusk can feel like evidence. Yet for every hopeful sign, there are hours of nothing but water. The men speak more quietly now, not because they are calm, but because words have begun to feel fragile. There are murmurs at the edge of conversation. How far have we truly come? Will the winds carry us back if needed? The compass readings continue to show slight variations, and though Columbus understands magnetic deviation imperfectly, the crew understands it even less. The unfamiliar becomes fertile ground for fear. And fear, like boredom, repeats. It returns in cycles. It rises at night when the stars seem too distant. It softens in daylight when routine resumes. In this relaxing bedtime history of Columbus 1492, we do not dramatize rebellion. We soften it, because even tension can be quiet. A glance exchanged between sailors, a pause before answering an order, a question that lingers a moment too long. 33 days at sea compress emotion. The Atlantic does not provide distraction, it provides reflection. Some men think of home, of stone streets and church bells in Europe in 1492, of families who may already assume them lost. Others imagine riches beyond comprehension, gold shining in sunlight, spices more abundant than any market in Seville. Hope and doubt alternate like the tide. The age of exploration, viewed from centuries later, feels bold and expansive. But inside these 33 days, it feels narrow and repetitive. The deck is the same length every morning, the mast the same height, the sail the same pale curve against sky. Even the ocean sounds for sleep remain steady, wave after wave, whisper after whisper, as if the sea is teaching patience. Columbus stands firm, yet even firmness must be maintained. He offers reassurance. He shortens reported distances again, quietly extending the crew's sense of safety. Leadership becomes measured calm, and beneath it all, the Santa Maria ship continues west. It does not know history, it only knows current and wind. On the 33rd night, the air feels subtly different. Not dramatic, not cinematic, simply different. The wind shifts slightly warmer. The sea carries faint traces of vegetation. A bird crosses the sky at dusk and does not immediately turn back toward open water. Small signs accumulate, gently, like pieces of a puzzle assembling themselves without announcement. The horizon still looks empty, yet something in the atmosphere has changed. In this history for sleep, we let that shift remain soft. We do not rush to the cry of land. We remain suspended in the final hours of uncertainty, because uncertainty is where transformation quietly begins. 33 days of repetition, 33 days of blue, 33 days of steady creaking wood and measured breath. Let that repetition soothe you now. Let it slow your thoughts. The ship continues forward, patient and persistent. And just beyond the curve of that endless horizon, dawn prepares to reveal what will become October 12, 1492. But for this final stretch of night, we stay with the ocean, with its rhythm, with its whispering lullaby, drifting gently, steadily, toward rest.
2 in the morning. A voice breaks through the darkness. Tierra, tierra, land. The word moves across the deck of the Santa Maria ship like a spark carried by wind. It does not explode into chaos, not at first.
It travels quietly, urgently from one sailor to the next. In this history for sleep, we slow that moment down. We let it unfold in soft motion, as if time itself has grown curious. The horizon that has been empty for 33 days now carries a shadow, a darker line against the darker sky. Columbus steps forward, not rushing, but leaning into the night air as if trying to feel the shape of land before he sees it clearly. The Atlantic, which has repeated itself for so long, suddenly feels different. There is tension in the wood beneath bare feet. There is alertness in every breath. The Christopher Columbus voyage has reached its threshold. Yet what lies ahead is not India, not Asia, not the spices and courts described in European imagination. It is Guanahani, though they do not yet know the name spoken by those who already live there. In this relaxing bedtime history of Columbus 1492, we allow the moment to remain gentle. The sails are adjusted, the ships slow their advance. Night thins into early dawn. The sky softens from black to deep blue, then to a faint wash of silver along the horizon. And there, unmistakable now, is land. Low, green, quiet. No towers, no palaces, no signs of the great empires imagined in Europe in 1492. Only trees. The air begins to change even before they step ashore. It carries warmth unfamiliar to men who left behind autumn winds in Spain. It smells faintly sweet, touched by vegetation and damp earth. When the small boat lowers into the water, the ocean sounds for sleep shift from deep Atlantic swells to gentler coastal ripples. Oars dip carefully. The distance between ship and shore shortens with each stroke. The sand appears pale beneath the first light. Columbus prepares himself with ceremony. He carries banners, symbols of crown and faith. But beneath ceremony, there is sensation. The first foot presses into warm sand, not the cold stone of Europe, not the rocking deck of the Santa Maria ship. Sand that yields slightly under weight. Sand that holds the imprint of arrival. The discovery of America, as it will later be called, does not feel like a proclamation in this instant. It feels like breath held and then released. The island of Guanahani rises gently around them. Palm trees arch toward the sky. Leaves shimmer in the growing light. Birds move through branches with unfamiliar calls, high and bright. The sound is not threatening. It is curious. The men stand in a landscape that feels abundant yet quiet. Water near the shore is clear enough to reveal sand and small fish beneath the surface. Colors appear sharper than memory allows. Deep green, bright turquoise, warm gold. Columbus kneels briefly, offering thanks to God, believing he has reached islands near Asia. The twist of history rests softly beneath the surface. They think they have found the edge of India. They have not. They stand in a world entirely unknown to their maps. In this slow-motion storytelling, we linger in the dissonance between belief and reality. The Columbus first landing is not loud, it is contemplative. It is filled with scanning eyes, cautious steps, exchanged glances among sailors who cannot quite reconcile expectation with sight. And yet, despite the miscalculation, something undeniable has happened. Two worlds have touched for the first time across this stretch of ocean. In this history for sleep, we do not rush to consequence. We stay in first light, the warmth of sand, the softness of tropical air, the quiet hum of insects rising with dawn. Let that image settle gently in your mind. The long uncertainty has ended, but understanding has only begun.
The sun rises fully now, and with it comes clarity. Not loud clarity, not revelation in thunder, but the slow unveiling of detail.
The men who stepped from the Santa Maria ship onto the sands of Guanahani stand still for a moment longer than necessary, as if their bodies are waiting for their minds to catch up. The discovery of America, a phrase that will echo for centuries, does not announce itself in this dawn. It exists instead in texture and temperature. The sand is warm beneath their boots. The air feels softer than in Europe in 1492, thicker with humidity and the scent of green life. The ocean behind them glows turquoise rather than deep Atlantic blue, gentler, almost inviting. In this history for sleep, we remain inside the senses. Leaves move overhead in a rhythm different from European forests. The wind carries the sound of unfamiliar birds, sharp but melodic. Somewhere inland, water flows quietly. Guanahani is not grand in scale, but it is abundant. The vegetation seems layered, dense yet ordered by nature's own design. Palm fronds arch toward the sky. Low shrubs cling to the edges of white sand. The Christopher Columbus voyage has ended its long uncertainty, but what begins now is interpretation. Columbus believes he has reached islands off Asia. He searches for signs that confirm this narrative. He studies the faces of the people who begin to appear at a distance. The Taíno inhabitants do not rush forward aggressively. They observe. Their movements are measured, curious rather than hostile. Two worlds, each carrying their own histories, stand within sight of one another. In this slow-motion storytelling, we soften the moment of encounter. The Columbus first landing is not yet defined by conflict. It is defined by gaze, eyes meeting across difference, clothing contrasting with skin, metal glinting in tropical light. The Spanish banners lift slightly in the breeze, symbols of crown and cross against a sky that belongs to neither. The twist of history deepens here. They call this the discovery of America, yet Guanahani was never empty. It was not waiting to be found. It was already known, named, lived within. In this relaxing bedtime history, we hold that awareness gently, without sharp edges. Columbus kneels again, claiming the island for Spain, naming it San Salvador. The act feels ceremonial, almost quiet against the vastness of what it will represent. The sand does not resist the imprint of his step. The palm trees do not bend differently because of a declaration. Nature continues its steady rhythm. The ocean sounds for sleep persist in the background, waves folding softly over themselves along the shore. The Taíno approach slowly. They carry themselves with openness, offering small gifts, cotton threads perhaps, simple objects shaped by hand. Columbus notes their appearance in his journal, describing them as generous, as lacking iron weapons, as potential allies or subjects. His observations are filtered through expectation. He sees what he believes he has reached. Yet beneath that interpretation lies a deeper truth. The Atlantic has connected two vast human stories. The age of exploration shifts from theory into lived reality in this moment. Not with cannons, not with shouting, but with stillness and mutual curiosity. Let your mind linger here. The light is bright now, but not harsh. The island breathes with tropical warmth. The Christopher Columbus voyage has reached land, yet the true journey of consequence has only begun. In this history for sleep, we do not accelerate toward empire or exchange. We remain with first contact as sensation, the brush of humid air against skin, the soft give of sand underfoot, the quiet hum of insects rising as the sun climbs higher, the misunderstanding that Asia has been reached, the reality that an entirely different hemisphere has been touched.
And as you rest within this moment, let the slow-motion nature of it soothe you. October 12, 1492, was not only a date in a textbook. It was a sunrise, a shoreline, a meeting of breath and gaze. The world has shifted, but gently, almost imperceptibly, like the tide sliding across sand. Stay with that tide. Let it carry you softly into calm, as history continues to unfold beyond the edge of waking thought.
They step from the forest, without armor, without iron, without the clang of conquest. The Taíno people move toward the shoreline of Guanahani with open hands and steady breath. In this history for sleep, we soften our gaze and allow the morning light of October 12, 1492, to rest not only on sails and banners, but on the faces of those who had long called this island home. Before the Christopher Columbus voyage arrived on the horizon, before the phrase "discovery of America" was ever spoken, there was a rhythm already established here. The pre-Columbian Caribbean was not empty. It was inhabited by communities whose lives were woven into wind, tide, and soil. The Taíno people did not emerge from myth. They emerged from generations of adaptation and knowledge. Their villages were arranged with intention. Circular houses called bohíos stood beneath palm roofs, their walls shaped from wood and woven materials that allowed air to pass gently through. In the center of some settlements stood a larger structure, the kane, where leaders gathered and decisions were discussed. The air within these spaces carried the scent of smoke from cooking fires and the sweetness of tropical fruit. Hammocks hung between wooden posts, swaying lightly even when no one rested within them. The word hammock itself would later travel back across the Atlantic, a quiet inheritance from indigenous history. In this relaxing bedtime history, we linger in that detail. A hammock moving softly in coastal breeze, a child's laughter drifting through trees. The Taíno people fished in shallow waters using nets crafted with care, or spears guided by practiced hands. Canoes carved from single tree trunks glided across turquoise water as naturally as birds across sky. They understood currents without compasses. They knew which seasons brought certain fish closer to shore. They cultivated cassava in carefully tended gardens, transforming the root into bread that sustained communities. The pre-Columbian Caribbean was not a paradise untouched by complexity, but it was balanced in ways that felt harmonious with land and sea. As Columbus and his men stand uncertain on the sand, the Taíno observe with curiosity. They notice metal glinting in sunlight. They notice fabric heavier than their own woven cotton garments. Their own bodies are adorned simply, sometimes with small ornaments of gold gathered from rivers. That gold will soon alter the course of interaction, but for this moment we remain before that shift. In this slow storytelling for sleep, empathy becomes our guide. The Taíno people approach not with hostility, but with openness. They offer small gifts, parrots with bright feathers, threads of cotton, objects shaped by hand rather than forged by furnace. Columbus writes in his journal that they appeared gentle and generous. He sees opportunity, yet beneath his words lies a truth he cannot fully grasp. These are the true inhabitants of this island. Their cosmology is rooted in zemis, spiritual beings represented in carved forms that connect community to ancestry and natural forces. Their stories are carried orally, spoken at dusk beneath stars that have guided them long before European navigation charts. In this history for sleep, we allow their presence to feel whole, not as background to European arrival, but as a complete world in itself. The Taíno people lived with structures of leadership, with caciques guiding villages, with rituals that marked seasons and transitions. Their lives were textured, meaningful, woven with care. And as the sun rises higher over Guanahani, illuminating both Spanish banners and woven palm roofs,
We pause in this shared space of first contact. No cannons fire, no orders are shouted, only breath, observation, and the fragile beginning of a connection that history will later complicate. For now, stay with the softness of the forest edge, the gentle arc of a canoe, the slow sway of a hammock. Let the pre-Columbian Caribbean breathe around you as you drift deeper into rest.
As the morning settles more fully over Guanahani, the island does not feel conquered, it feels alive. In this history for sleep, we remain with the Taíno people a little longer, allowing their world to unfold not as a footnote to Columbus' 1492, but as a complete and breathing presence within the pre-Columbian Caribbean. Imagine walking inland beneath a canopy of green. Sunlight filters through palm leaves in shifting patterns, dappling the earth with warmth and shade. The ground is soft with fallen fronds, and the air carries the hum of insects that rise and fall like a distant lullaby. Villages are not built in rigid lines, but arranged in circles that reflect community rather than hierarchy. Children move freely between huts. Elders sit in conversation, their voices calm, measured, shaped by memory rather than urgency. The Taíno people understand the land as relative, not possession. Rivers are pathways and providers. Forests are shelter and story. Gardens of cassava stretch quietly behind dwellings, each plant tended with knowledge passed through generations. Cassava bread dries in the sun, flat and simple, sustaining without spectacle. In this relaxing bedtime history, we let these images linger gently. A woman weaving cotton fibers into cloth with steady hands. A fisherman mending a net beneath shade. A canoe resting upside down on sand, its surface worn smooth by use rather than neglect. The word hammock, which will travel into European languages, is more than an object here. It is rest shaped by climate, comfort designed for breeze and heat. Suspended between wooden posts, it rocks softly with the rhythm of wind. That motion feels almost symbolic now, as if the entire pre-Columbian Caribbean is suspended in a brief stillness before unseen change. The Taíno spiritual world is layered and intimate. Zemis, carved representations of ancestral or natural forces, are placed within homes and communal spaces. They are not idols in the European sense, but connections, bridges between human life and the invisible patterns guiding it. Ritual dances called aretos bring community together in circular movement, voices rising in song that recount lineage, migration, gratitude. There is no iron clang here, no armor, no war drums echoing across plains. Conflict existed in the region, as it does in all human societies, yet Guanahani at this moment feels defined by openness rather than aggression. When Columbus writes of the Taíno people in his journal, he describes them as generous and without iron weapons. He imagines how easily they might be converted or governed. His perspective, shaped by Europe in 1492 and the Age of Exploration, filters what he sees. He does not yet perceive the fragility beneath this meeting. The tragedy that history will later record is not visible in the bright morning light. In this slow storytelling for sleep, we remain before that sorrow. We allow empathy to guide the tone. The Taíno people do not know that disease will follow contact. They do not know that systems of labor and extraction will soon reshape their world. In this moment, they know only curiosity. They see strangers in heavy cloth and metal. They see faces pale from weeks at sea. They see men kneeling,
raising flags, speaking words in an unfamiliar tongue. And still they step closer. A gift is extended, a gesture of welcome. The discovery of America, often framed as a triumph of navigation, is also a moment of vulnerability. Two worlds stand without shared language, each interpreting the other through incomplete understanding. The Columbus first landing becomes layered with meaning, not because of what is shouted, but because of what is unspoken. The forest watches quietly. Birds continue their bright calls. The ocean sounds for sleep remain steady along the shore, wave folding into wave. In this history for sleep, we do not rush toward empire or collapse. We honor the Taíno presence as whole and dignified. We rest in the shade of palm leaves. We feel the warmth of Caribbean air against skin. We sense, beneath the beauty, a subtle tension that neither side can yet articulate. The hammock sways. The canoe waits. The cassava dries in sunlight. And for one suspended morning in October 1492, the pre-Columbian Caribbean breathes in stillness, unaware that the horizon has already shifted forever. Let that stillness cradle your thoughts now. Let the gentleness of this world settle into you as you drift deeper into calm.
In Columbus's eyes, the island does not shine only with beauty. It glimmers, not like starlight, but like gold. As we remain on the warm sands of Guanahani in this history for sleep, the tone shifts gently, almost imperceptibly, like a lullaby turning minor. The forest still breathes. The ocean still folds itself into quiet waves. The Taíno people still move with openness. And yet, something in the air begins to narrow. Columbus watches closely. When he notices small ornaments of gold worn by some of the islanders, thin pieces shaped into simple decorations, his attention sharpens. He asks where the gold comes from. He gestures. He listens to answers spoken in a language he does not understand, interpreting through assumption. The word Cipangu lives in his imagination, a name borrowed from accounts of Marco Polo, describing a land rich with gold somewhere in Asia. The search for Cipangu has traveled with him across the Atlantic. The Christopher Columbus voyage was never only about discovery, it was about confirmation. Confirmation that the Crown's investment would return multiplied. Confirmation that he had reached the outer islands of Asia. And gold, even in small flecks, feels like proof. In this relaxing bedtime history of Columbus 1492, we slow the moment down. A Taíno man removes a small gold ornament from around his neck. It catches the sunlight briefly. Columbus holds it, weighs it in his palm. The metal is not refined. It is river gold, gathered in fragments, valued for beauty rather than accumulation. But to Columbus, it signals possibility. The Spanish conquest, not yet realized, rests quietly in that weight, not as violence in this instant, but as intention. In his journal, Columbus writes of the gold he sees, of rivers that may contain more, of islands where the supply might be abundant. His tone carries both devotion and calculation. God and gold intertwine easily in his worldview. He believes his journey is guided by divine purpose. He also believes it must justify itself economically. These two beliefs do not conflict in his mind. They reinforce one another. In this dark lullaby of history for sleep, we feel the subtle tightening of narrative. The first exchanges of goods occur gently. The Spanish offer small glass beads, metal bells, objects that glitter and ring. The Taíno accept them with curiosity. A bell's sound is bright and novel. It sings in a way unfamiliar to the forest. In return, bits of gold are offered, not as tribute, but as gesture. To the Taíno people, gold is adornment, not currency. It is one material among many: shell, cotton, feather. The misunderstanding lies not in hostility, but in value. For Columbus, gold is destiny. For the Taíno, it is decoration. This quiet misalignment hums beneath the surface of every interaction. The search for Cipangu intensifies. Columbus asks repeatedly about larger sources of gold, about distant islands, about great rulers inland. He hears answers through translation by gesture, by pointing, by hopeful imagination. Directions are misread, magnitudes are distorted. Every hint becomes evidence of something greater just beyond reach. In this relaxing history documentary, the mood grows more contemplative. The forest remains green, the ocean remains turquoise, but Columbus's focus narrows to what glitters. He does not yet see empire, he sees opportunity. He does not yet foresee devastation, he sees fulfillment of promise. The age of exploration now reveals its dual heart, wonder and extraction beating together. In this history for sleep, we do not condemn nor do we celebrate, we observe. We remain inside the moment when curiosity shifts toward possession. The Columbus gold he seeks becomes a thread that will pull him from island to island. And as he stands on Guanahani under a tropical sun, holding a fragment of metal that seems to confirm his dreams, the lullaby deepens. The birds still call, the waves still whisper, but beneath their rhythm, another pulse has begun.
So the shift does not happen with a shout. It happens with repetition. Columbus asks again about gold, and again, and again. In this history for sleep, we allow the rhythm of that question to echo softly, like a tide returning to the same shore. Where does it come from? Is there more? Are there larger pieces inland? The Taíno respond with gestures, pointing vaguely toward other islands, perhaps meaning simply elsewhere, perhaps meaning nothing more than distance. But in the mind of a man searching for Cipangu, every gesture becomes direction, every word becomes promise. The Christopher Columbus voyage, once defined by uncertainty, now becomes defined by pursuit. The island of Guanahani no longer feels like a rival, it feels like a clue. In this dark lullaby of Columbus 1492, the forest remains tranquil, yet the focus narrows further. Columbus's journal entries grow more detailed regarding Columbus gold. He notes where small pieces were found, speculates about rivers in other islands, imagines mines that do not yet exist in his experience. Gold and God remain intertwined in his language. He writes of bringing Christianity to the Taíno people, of claiming lands for Spain, of expanding both faith and fortune. The age of exploration begins to tilt towards something heavier. The Spanish conquest is not yet a reality here, but its outline appears faintly in intention. Exchanges continue. A small bell is offered. Its ring is bright, metallic, foreign to the forest's softer sounds. The Taíno hold it, listen to its tone, perhaps amused by its novelty. In return, a fragment of gold is placed in Spanish hands. The imbalance is invisible in the moment. Both sides believe they are trading fairly. Yet value does not exist equally in both imaginations. To the Taíno people, gold carries aesthetic meaning. It reflects sunlight. It adorns the body. It does not represent accumulation of power. To Columbus, gold justifies oceans crossed. It is evidence that the crown's gamble was wise. It is the promise of status, of further expeditions, of legacy secured. In this relaxing bedtime history, we feel the gentle tightening of expectation. Columbus begins asking for guides. He suggests traveling to other islands where more gold might be found. Some Taíno agree to accompany the Spaniards, perhaps out of curiosity, perhaps out of politeness, perhaps without full understanding of what this departure signifies. The horizon that once symbolized wonder now symbolizes resource. The search for Cipangu shifts from myth to motivation. The ocean sounds for sleep remained constant, waves brushing the hulls of ships that prepare to move again. But the emotional current beneath them has changed. Curiosity has taken on direction. Desire has found an object. The discovery of America, as it will later be framed, reveals itself not as a single moment of triumph, but as a gradual unfolding of intentions. In this history for sleep, we do not raise our voices, we lower them, because transformation often arrives quietly. Columbus walks along the shoreline once more. He watches the Taíno children play near water. He observes the ease with which they move through forest paths, and yet his attention drifts back to the glint of metal. The world he left behind in Europe in 1492 demanded results. The fall of Granada had sharpened ambition. The Spanish crown expects wealth. And so the island becomes less a sanctuary and more a starting point. The dark lullaby deepens. There is still warmth in the air, still the hum of insects, still the sway of hammocks between trees. But beneath these gentle rhythms, intention grows firmer. In this final stretch of Chapter 6, we rest in that tension without rushing toward its outcome. The Taíno world remains whole in this instant. The Spanish presence remains small. The search for gold is still a question, not yet a system. Yet the thread has been pulled. Gold, God, and greed now move together across sand and sea. And as you listen, allow the quiet weight of that shift to settle softly, like twilight descending over the Caribbean.
The ships sail again. Cuba, Hispaniola. The names roll softly across the tongue, almost like a spell meant to lull rather than awaken. In this history for sleep, allow the hull of the Santa Maria to rock gently beneath you once more, as if the ocean itself is turning pages in a bedtime history of the Caribbean islands. The anchor lifts. The shoreline of Guanahani fades into a memory of green and gold. And ahead, the geography of the West Indies unfolds like a half-remembered dream. Columbus believes he is tracing the outer edges of Asia. He believes that somewhere just beyond the next curve of coastline lies the domain of the Grand Khan, with cities rumored to gleam under roofs of gold. The search for Cipangu continues, now scattered across islands like stepping stones in a vast turquoise sea. As we drift into this relaxing history documentary, Cuba appears on the horizon as a dark line rising slowly from mist. The air is warmer here, heavy with unfamiliar fragrance. Forests stretch toward the water's edge, dense and layered, leaves broad and glossy. Rivers wind inward like silver threads. The Taíno people greet the newcomers with the same cautious openness as before. There are villages tucked beneath palm trees, hammocks strung between trunks, smoke rising from small cooking fires. The Christopher Columbus voyage transforms into something quieter and yet more restless. Each new island holds the promise of revelation. Each cove seems to whisper that perhaps the next bend will reveal the palace he imagines. In this travelogue style of history for sleep, we do not hurry. We let the shoreline slide past slowly. Columbus sends small parties inland to inquire about gold, about rulers, about cities. Again and again, gestures are exchanged. Again and again, hopes are translated imperfectly. The Taínos speak of chiefs, of lands beyond their own. Columbus hears echoes of empire. He writes letters describing Cuba as potentially part of mainland Asia. He imagines proximity to Cathay. But no grand city emerges from the trees. No gilded walls reflect the sun. Only forest, only river, only villages built in harmony with earth and sea.
the disappointment grows not as anger, but as tension. In this bedtime history, the tension remains soft, like a string pulled gently tighter. Hispaniola comes next, rising from the sea with mountains that appear blue at dawn. The island feels larger, more promising. Its valleys seem fertile, its rivers numerous. If Cipangu is not in Cuba, perhaps it waits here. The geography of the West Indies becomes both map and mirage. Columbus moves along the coastline carefully, noting bays that could shelter ships, beaches wide enough for landing. He sees opportunity everywhere, and yet the Golden Palace remains absent. The age of exploration reveals its quiet irony in this moment. The islands are abundant in beauty, in biodiversity, in culture, but they are not the Asia he envisioned. In this history for sleep, we feel the slow unraveling of certainty. Columbus cannot admit that he is somewhere entirely new. His worldview requires Asia, so Asia becomes the frame through which every island is interpreted. Cuba is not Cuba, it is perhaps the edge of Cathay. Hispaniola is not Hispaniola, it is another stepping stone toward the Grand Khan. As the ships drift from harbor to harbor, the rhythm of ocean sounds for sleep continues beneath the narrative. Waves lap, sails billow softly, stars scatter across a Caribbean sky untouched by European maps. And within this dreamlike progression, something deeper unfolds. The Caribbean islands' history we now understand as the beginning of a vast transformation. But in this moment, it feels like wandering, island hopping in a dream, a journey without a rival, a search guided by conviction rather than confirmation. Let the names linger. Cuba, Hispaniola, like distant lullabies. Let the disappointment remain gentle. Let the voyage continue in the quiet space between expectation and reality.
The dream continues, but it grows heavier. Hispaniola unfolds slowly beneath the morning light, mountains softened by mist, valleys brushed with pale gold as the sun rises. In this history for sleep, allow yourself to drift along the coastline once more, the Santa Maria moving carefully over coral reefs that glow faintly beneath clear Caribbean waters. The geography of the West Indies reveals itself not as a single paradise, but as a mosaic of coves, estuaries, forests, and rivers that seem to promise abundance. Columbus studies every inlet with attentive eyes. He sees potential harbors, future settlements, places where ships could return and anchor again. The Christopher Columbus voyage has shifted from exploration to evaluation. The island is no longer simply beautiful, it is measurable. The Taíno communities here appear larger than those encountered before. Their canoes move swiftly between shorelines, carved from single trunks, gliding across water with quiet precision. Villages rest near rivers where fish are plentiful and soil is dark and fertile. Smoke from cooking fires rises in thin spirals that dissolve into the humid air. In this travelogue style of relaxing history documentary, we linger over details: the sound of paddles dipping rhythmically, the scent of crushed leaves underfoot, the distant call of unfamiliar birds echoing through canopy. And yet beneath the sensory calm, expectation hums. Columbus still searches for confirmation that this is Asia. He questions the Taíno leaders about great cities inland, about powerful rulers, about gold in quantities large enough to satisfy a crown across the ocean. Again gestures, again interpretations shaped by longing. The palace of the Grand Khan does not appear on any horizon. Instead, Columbus finds communities organized not around empire, but around reciprocity. There are no towering stone walls, no tiled roofs flashing in sunlight,
only circular dwellings woven from palm and wood, aligned with wind and shade. In this bedtime history of Caribbean islands history, we feel the subtle strain between imagination and reality. Columbus writes letters back to Spain describing Hispaniola as promising, as fertile, as worthy of continued investment. He frames the island through possibility rather than absence. If Asia cannot yet be confirmed, then opportunity must suffice. And so the idea of return takes shape. The age of exploration advances quietly here, not through grand proclamations, but through small decisions made beside calm water. The Santa Maria, steady until now, approaches a reef one December night. The crew is weary. The sea appears deceptively still. In this history for sleep, we slow the moment to near stillness. The hull scrapes softly against coral. Wood presses where it should not. There is no dramatic storm, no roaring wind, only the quiet realization that the ship will not move again. The grounding of the Santa Maria becomes both accident and turning point. Stranded timbers are dismantled carefully. From the remains, a small fort is constructed on Hispaniola's shore. It will be called La Navidad. The Caribbean island's history now takes a different shape. Columbus leaves behind a group of men, trusting that alliances with the Taíno will sustain them until his return. The dream of island hopping narrows into something more fixed. What began as wandering becomes settlement. The search for Cipangu has not ended, but it is temporarily paused in favor of foothold. In this dark lullaby woven gently into our history for sleep, the disappointment over absent golden palaces softens into determination. Columbus reframes his narrative. If he has not found the Grand Khan, he has found lands that can be claimed. If he has not reached Cathay, he has reached somewhere valuable. The geography of the West Indies shifts in his mind from stepping stones to territories. And as he prepares to sail back toward Spain, leaving La Navidad behind like a quiet marker in sand, the sea once again opens before him. The dream continues, but it is no longer innocent. It carries weight now. The islands remain lush, the rivers clear, the forests whispering as they always have, but the voyage has altered direction. Island hopping in a dream has become island holding in intention. Let the ocean sounds for sleep rise gently once more. Let the ships drift back toward Europe, and rest in the awareness that history often changes not with thunder, but with the soft scrape of wood against coral beneath a silent tropical sky. Christmas night, 1492. The sea appears calm, almost tender beneath a sky brushed with distant stars. In this history for sleep, we return to the shoreline of Hispaniola, where the Santa Maria, proud and weathered from weeks across the Atlantic, drifts closer to land than it should. There is no thunder, no dramatic storm to mark the moment, only quiet water and tired men. The Christopher Columbus voyage, which began with ambition and wonder, now slows into something fragile. A helmsman rests, a current shifts, the hull glides toward coral hidden just beneath the surface. The Santa Maria shipwreck does not begin with chaos, it begins with stillness. Wood presses softly against reef. A grinding sound, low and restrained, moves through the planks. Columbus wakes to the realization that the flagship will not free itself. In this relaxing bedtime history, we soften the edges of catastrophe. There is urgency, yes, but it is muted. Lanterns flicker across anxious faces. Orders are given in controlled tones. Cargo is removed carefully. Ropes strain. Yet the tide does not return the ship to deep water. The Santa Maria remains held by the reef, as if the sea itself has decided to pause the journey. In his Columbus Diary, he will later describe the event with measured disappointment rather than despair. The age of exploration rarely pauses for sentiment. Still, in this moment, there is loss. The ship was more than wood and sail. It was direction, it was authority, it was symbol. Now it becomes resource. As dawn arrives on December 25th, the reality settles like mist over the Caribbean coast. The geography of the West Indies glows under early sunlight, indifferent to European plans. The Taíno observe from a distance, offering assistance, helping salvage what they can. There is no hostility in this moment, only collaboration shaped by curiosity and circumstance. Columbus decides that the wreck cannot be saved. Instead, it will be transformed. In this dark lullaby woven into our history for sleep, the dismantling begins. Planks are lifted, nails extracted, timber carried to shore. The Santa Maria shipwreck becomes foundation rather than grave. From its remains, a small wooden structure rises near the village of a Taíno leader known as Guanahani. It is named La Navidad in honor of the day. The name feels gentle, almost hopeful. La Navidad Fort stands modestly against the vastness of forest and sea. There are no stone walls, no towers of dominance, only wood shaped from necessity. Yet its symbolism is immense. It marks the first European foothold in this Caribbean island's history. Columbus faces a practical decision. With one ship lost and limited space on the remaining vessels, not all men can return to Spain. Supplies must be balanced, risk must be calculated. In this relaxing history documentary, we approach the decision slowly. 39 men will remain at La Navidad. They volunteer, some eager for opportunity, others resigned to circumstance. Columbus assures them that the land is friendly, that gold may be found inland, that he will return swiftly with reinforcements. The mood is not overtly tragic, it is layered. There is optimism, tinged with uncertainty. The Taíno world continues around them, unchanged in rhythm. Children play near the river, hammocks sway in shade. Yet beneath the surface, history tilts. The Santa Maria rests dismantled along the shore, its identity dissolved into beams and walls. Christmas has passed quietly. No bells ring across cathedral towers here, only the hum of insects and the whisper of palm leaves. In this history for sleep, we allow the sadness to remain soft. The tragic Christmas does not erupt, it settles. A ship lost, a fort built, 39 men watching the horizon as their admiral prepares to sail away. The sea that once carried them forward now becomes distance, and La Navidad stands fragile and hopeful beneath a Caribbean sky that knows nothing yet of what will follow.
Morning stretches slowly over La Navidad, as if reluctant to disturb what has been set into motion. In this history for sleep, we remain beside the quiet wooden walls built from the bones of the Santa Maria shipwreck. The air is warm already, heavy with salt and distant birdsong. 39 men stand along the shoreline, some with folded arms, others gripping tools that only days ago were part of a vessel that crossed an ocean. The Christopher Columbus voyage, which once felt like a single moving story, now divides into two paths. One continues eastward towards Spain. The other remains rooted here in the geography of the West Indies, among forests that do not yet know the weight of European permanence. Columbus walks slowly between the men he is leaving behind. In his Columbus diary, he writes with confidence, assuring the crown that the land is fertile, the Taíno friendly, and gold within reach. His tone carries optimism. He believes this small fort will serve as a bridgehead for future prosperity. In this relaxing bedtime history, we allow the optimism to feel sincere. Columbus does not imagine abandonment. He imagines return. He imagines arriving back in Spain as a discoverer, presenting news of islands rich in possibility.
He imagines fleets returning stronger, better supplied, prepared to expand what has begun. The men at La Navidad imagine something else. Some see opportunity for quick wealth. Others sense isolation, but trust in their admiral's promise. Around them, the Taíno community continues its daily rhythm. Canoes glide across shallow waters, nets are cast into rivers, smoke rises from cooking fires in the late afternoon. The Caribbean islands' history at this moment remains delicate, balanced between coexistence and misunderstanding. The Spanish bring metal tools, unfamiliar customs, expectations shaped by Europe in 1492. The Taíno offer hospitality, food, guidance through terrain. Yet beneath these exchanges lies imbalance. The fort itself stands as quiet declaration. It signals intention to remain. In this dark lullaby of history for sleep, we soften the edges of tension. We focus instead on the farewell. Columbus boards the Niña, now his principal vessel. The Santa Maria no longer exists as ship, only as structure. Sails are adjusted carefully, anchors lifted. The tide is favorable. As the ship begins to move away from Hispaniola, the shoreline recedes slowly. The 39 men watch the horizon, where white canvas grows smaller against blue. There is no dramatic music, no raised voices, only the sound of waves brushing sand and hull. The discovery of America, as it will later be called, carries within it this quiet fracture. Those who sail believe they will return triumphant. Those who remain believe they are pioneers at the edge of fortune. The age of exploration does not yet show its harsher chapters here. It whispers them faintly, like wind through palm leaves. As evening falls over La Navidad, the fort casts long shadows against the forest. The men settle into routines, guards assigned, supplies counted. They look inland toward rumored rivers of gold. They look seaward toward absence. In this history for sleep, we let the weight of that waiting settle gently. Columbus sails east, carrying letters that describe success. Behind him, the first European foothold in the Caribbean stands quietly vulnerable. La Navidad is both beginning and question. It is built from loss, sustained by hope, surrounded by cultures that do not yet fully understand one another. And as the Niña disappears beyond the curve of the earth, the Christmas of 1492 becomes memory, soft, unresolved, and heavy with what history has not yet revealed.
The two remaining ships turn their bows eastward. Home. The word feels distant, almost abstract, as the Niña and the Pinta pull away from the warm coastlines of Hispaniola. In this history for sleep, allow the Caribbean horizon to fade gently behind you, replaced by the vast, uncertain breadth of the Atlantic. The Christopher Columbus voyage now becomes a return voyage, but it is not a simple retracing of lines. The ocean in winter carries a different temperament. The waters that once opened calmly before the ships now shift under colder winds. The Atlantic storms gather slowly at first, as gray clouds stitch themselves across the sky like a seam closing over blue. The Niña and Pinta, smaller and lighter than the Santa Maria once was, feel exposed against the immense sea. In this relaxing bedtime history, we slow the scene to the rhythm of waves rising and falling. The masts creak, the sails strain, spray reaches the deck in bursts of salt and cold. Columbus stands near the helm, not as conqueror, but as navigator watching the sky. He carries letters sealed and promises written in ink. He carries news of islands he believes to be Asia. But the Atlantic does not respond to ambition. It responds to wind. As storms deepen, the ships are separated. The Pinta drifts out of sight, swallowed briefly by sheets of rain and distance. For a moment, the Niña sails alone, a fragile line against towering swells.
In this history for sleep, we lean into the feeling of isolation. The ocean stretches in every direction, unbroken and indifferent. Columbus, aware of the risk, writes hurried notes describing his discoveries, sealing them in waterproof containers, prepared to cast them into the sea if the ships are lost. It is a gesture of both fear and faith. The age of exploration feels suddenly smaller against thunderclouds. The discovery of America, as future generations will call it, rests precariously in the hands of sailors gripping wet rope. Columbus makes vows during the storm. He promises pilgrimage if spared. He promises gratitude if the ships survive. In this dark lullaby of the Atlantic, the sound of wind becomes almost hypnotic. The repetition of wave after wave mirrors the repetition of prayer. Days blur, nights deepen. The Niña pitches and rises, pitches and rises. The geography of the West Indies is far behind now, replaced by an endless corridor of water. The return voyage tests not only wood and sail, but conviction. Some sailors wonder quietly if the ocean seeks repayment for what has been taken from it. Others cling to hope of reward awaiting them in Spain. Columbus, ever certain in his interpretation, reads survival as divine confirmation. In this relaxing history documentary, we soften the roar of the storm into rhythm. The Atlantic storms do not destroy them, though they come close. They humble, they remind. And as the worst winds pass and gray skies thin, the ships continue eastward, smaller than when they left, but carrying a story that has already begun reshaping two worlds.
The storms do not vanish all at once. They loosen their grip slowly, as if reluctant to release the small wooden ships that dared cross their winter path. In this history for sleep, we remain aboard the Niña as gray skies soften into pale silver. The Atlantic storms that once towered above the mast now drift outward, leaving behind a long swell that rocks the ship with steady rhythm. Days pass in quiet vigilance. The crew, thinner and more worn than when they departed the Caribbean islands, history now etched into memory, scan the horizon with renewed attention. The return voyage is no longer about ambition, it is about arrival. Columbus stands near the rail, eyes fixed eastward. He has survived what he interprets as divine testing. His letters, describing the lands he believes to be part of Asia, remain sealed and guarded. The discovery of America, though unnamed in his mind, travels invisibly within those pages. In this relaxing bedtime history, the soundscape shifts from thunder to breath. Wind hums through loosened rigging, water taps gently against hull. The Niña and Pinta, reunited after their separation, move like cautious companions across open water. There is still danger in the Atlantic, but it is quieter now. The geography of the West Indies is far behind, replaced by a different longing. Home becomes shape rather than concept. And then, one morning, a subtle change appears along the horizon. Not a forest, not a tropical island, but a faint line darker than sea and sky. Portugal. The sight arrives without ceremony, yet its emotional weight is immense. In this history for sleep, we linger in that first recognition. A sailor blinks, uncertain. Another peers forward. The line grows steadier, solidifying into coastline. The return voyage has crossed its final threshold. Relief does not explode, it exhales. Columbus kneels in quiet gratitude. Promises made in storm are remembered in calm. The Niña anchors briefly along the Portuguese coast before continuing toward Spain. News spreads quickly through ports. Sailors speak of islands across the ocean, of gold glimpsed and alliances formed. The age of exploration shifts from possibility to proclamation. In this dark lullaby transformed into dawn, we sense the transition from solitude to recognition. Columbus's journey, which began as petition and gamble, now returns as report and triumph. Yet beneath the celebration lies the subtle truth we have followed throughout this history for sleep. The voyage did not simply connect lands, it altered them. As the ships finally approached Spain, church bells rang across stone cities far removed from palm-lined shores. Crowds gather. Columbus steps onto familiar ground, carrying tropical leaves, unfamiliar artifacts, and stories that reshape maps. The Atlantic storms are behind him. The long voyage home is complete. But in the quiet space of reflection, we remember La Navidad standing fragile in Hispaniola. We remember the Taíno villages continuing their rhythm beneath Caribbean stars. The return voyage brings closure for some and opens uncertainty for others. In this relaxing history documentary, we allow the feeling of relief to remain gentle. The Niña and Pinta rest at harbor. The sea that tested them now lies calm beyond the breakwater. And as you drift deeper into sleep, let the image settle softly. Two small ships crossing a vast winter ocean, carrying not only sailors, but the turning of history itself. When Columbus stepped onto the shore in 1492, he did not only carry back rumors of gold or stories of distant islands. He carried something invisible, something that would quietly reshape the history of food, the old world, a new world, and even the rhythm of daily life across continents. In this history for sleep, we soften the moment and allow it to expand beyond ships and sails, beyond forts and storms. Because the most powerful consequence of the Christopher Columbus voyage did not shout, it traveled silently in seeds, in breath, in blood. The Columbian Exchange begins not with ceremony, but with contact. Plants, animals, microbes, ideas. In this relaxing bedtime history, imagine the ships returning to Europe not only with letters and artifacts, but with small sacks of unfamiliar crops. Maize, golden and tall, its kernels arranged in perfect rows. Potatoes, knotted and humble, carried from Andean highlands. Tomatoes, red and bright, though at first regarded with suspicion. Cocoa beans, dark and bitter, holding within them the future sweetness of chocolate. These foods, once rooted only in the Americas, cross the Atlantic as quietly as whispers. In return, the Old World sends its own cargo westward. Horses step for the first time onto American soil, their hooves pressing into earth that has never felt such weight. Cattle follow, sheep, pigs, wheat, sugarcane. The geography of the West Indies, once filled with native species, begins to shift under grazing animals and foreign seeds. In this history for sleep, we move slowly through the list, allowing repetition to soothe. Corn to Europe, wheat to America, potatoes to Ireland, sugar to the Caribbean. The Columbian Exchange is not a single event, it is a process unfolding year after year. The age of exploration becomes an age of biological movement. Entire ecosystems begin to rearrange themselves. And here lies the mind-blowing fact woven gently into our bedtime history. Your dinner table today is a map of 1492. The tomatoes in Italian pasta, the chili peppers in Asian curries, the potatoes in Northern Europe that would one day sustain growing populations. Without the Old World, New World exchange, many modern cuisines would not exist as we know them. Yet the exchange is not limited to nourishment. It includes disease. Smallpox, influenza, measles travel westward, invisible and devastating.
Indigenous populations who have no immunity encounter illnesses that move faster than understanding. In this dark lullaby of history for sleep, we do not dwell in graphic detail. We remain aware of scale. Entire communities altered, entire regions transformed. At the same time, syphilis likely travels eastward, crossing the Atlantic in reverse direction. The Columbian Exchange is not moral or immoral in itself. It is movement, it is consequence, it is connection. In this relaxing history documentary, we allow the biological transformation to feel both vast and quiet. Imagine seeds planted in European soil for the first time, farmers unsure how to cultivate strange tubers. Imagine horses galloping across American plains, reshaping cultures of mobility and trade. The exchange ripples outward from 1492, touching kitchens, farms, forests, and cities. The discovery of America, often framed as exploration, becomes ecological revolution. In this history for sleep, let the list continue gently like beads sliding through fingers. Beans, rice, coffee, citrus, tobacco, each crossing an ocean, each altering economies, each linking continents more tightly than any map could show. And as you drift deeper, consider how the invisible cargo of Columbus's return voyage continues to shape the world beneath your feet and upon your plate tonight.
The exchange does not end with the first voyage. It widens, it deepens, it settles into soil and bloodstream alike. In this history for sleep, we follow the Columbian Exchange as it unfolds slowly across decades, reshaping the Old World and New World in ways neither Columbus nor the Taíno could have imagined. Imagine a small potato planted in European earth for the first time. Farmers in Spain and later in Ireland examine the unfamiliar tuber with hesitation. It grows beneath the surface, hidden, steady, reliable. Over time, it becomes sustenance for millions. Populations expand. Villages grow into towns. The history of food changes quietly, one harvest at a time. In Italy, tomatoes, once feared as ornamental curiosities, are gradually welcomed into kitchens. In Asia, chili peppers, carried through trade routes connected to the Columbian Exchange, transform cuisines with heat and color. The mind-blowing fact rests gently here in our relaxing bedtime history. Entire national dishes, foods we consider ancient and traditional, exist because of 1492. The discovery of America becomes not only a geographic milestone, but a culinary and biological revolution. Yet alongside nourishment comes a shift. Sugarcane, brought from the Old World to the Caribbean islands, history now entwined with Europe, thrives in tropical climate. Plantations begin to expand. Labor demands increase. The Atlantic becomes corridor not only for crops, but for people forced into movement. In this dark lullaby of history for sleep, we approach this shift softly, without detail, but with awareness. The Columbian Exchange links continents economically as well as ecologically. Wheat fields spread across American soil. Horses reshape indigenous mobility and warfare. Cattle graze on plains that once held only native fauna. Forests are cleared, landscapes adjusted. The geography of the West Indies and beyond transforms with each new species introduced. Disease continues its silent journey. Smallpox outbreaks move through communities with devastating speed. European populations, bolstered by new caloric crops like maize and potatoes, begin to rise.
In this relaxing history documentary, we see contrast without condemnation. Biological exchange creates abundance and loss simultaneously. The age of exploration becomes an age of irreversible interconnection. By the 17th century, the Atlantic world no longer consists of separate spheres. It becomes a web of circulation. Plants, animals, microbes, humans, ideas, crossing and recrossing water. In this history for sleep, we slow the pace deliberately. Corn to Africa, cassava to Southeast Asia, coffee from Ethiopia to the Americas and back to Europe. The repetition becomes soothing. Movement becomes pattern. The Columbian Exchange is not a moment frozen in 1492. It is a current still flowing beneath modern life. Tonight, as you rest, consider how deeply it reaches. The chocolate in your cup traces back to cacao once cultivated in Mesoamerica. The bread beside it may rely on wheat that crossed oceans. The horse in a distant pasture carries lineage shaped by transatlantic movement. Even the invisible bacteria within us echo centuries of exchange. What really happened when Columbus landed in 1492 was not confined to a shoreline in Guanahani or a fort named La Navidad. It began a transformation of ecosystems so vast that we rarely notice it. In this history for sleep, we let the realization settle gently rather than sharply. The old world and new world are no longer separate. They are braided. The Columbian Exchange continues in subtle forms even now, a reminder that history is not only written in battles and proclamations, but in seeds planted, meals shared, and lives altered quietly across continents. Let the rhythm of that exchange soothe you. Let the repetition of movement calm you. And as sleep approaches, rest in the awareness that the world you inhabit was not only shaped by ships and storms, but by potatoes, horses, sugar, and the invisible threads of connection begun in 1492.
The fate of La Navidad is wrapped in silence. When Columbus returns on his second voyage, expecting to see the small wooden fort standing as he left it, he finds instead smoke-blackened remains and stillness. In this history for sleep, we approach that shoreline gently, without drama, without accusation, only with awareness. The fate of La Navidad unfolds not as spectacle, but as consequence. The huts built from the timbers of the Santa Maria lie broken. The men who once stood watching the horizon are gone. There are no welcoming voices, no signal fires rising to greet returning sails, only absence. In this dark history whispered softly into night, the consequences of 1492 begin to sharpen. Accounts suggest that the men left behind had grown restless, divided, perhaps careless in their treatment of local communities. Alliances strained, misunderstandings hardened. The fragile balance that once existed between the Spanish settlers and the Taíno fractured quietly and then completely. When Columbus steps onto the sand again, the paradise he imagined as foothold appears altered. In this relaxing bedtime history, we do not dwell on violence in detail. We dwell instead on stillness after rupture. The age of exploration, which once felt like hopeful expansion, reveals its harsher undercurrent. La Navidad had been built on optimism, on belief in easy cooperation, on assumption that gold would bind interests together. But human ambition rarely rests so gently. The dark history here is not a single act, it is accumulation, cultural misunderstanding, competition for resources, authority without accountability. The first European colony in the Caribbean islands' history collapses before it can root itself. Yet its fall does not end the story, it transforms it.
Columbus responds not by retreating from the New World, but by deepening involvement. The second voyage brings more ships, more men, more intent to establish permanent presence. The consequences of 1492 now move from accident to structure. In this history for sleep, we sense the turning point not as thunder, but as inevitability. The discovery of America shifts from isolated contact to colonial system. Forts become towns, towns become administrative centers, labor systems begin to form, reshaping Taíno life under new pressures. The geography of the West Indies changes not only biologically through the Columbian Exchange, but politically and socially. The legacy of a lost paradise is not only that something beautiful was disturbed, it is that a threshold was crossed. Once crossed, it cannot be uncrossed. In this reflective bedtime history, we allow space for Stoic contemplation. The Stoics spoke of fate not as cruelty, but as unfolding pattern. The meeting of continents after millennia of separation may have always carried collision within it. The sea that once separated worlds had grown navigable, ships had grown sturdier, curiosity had grown bold. Was 1492 avoidable, or was it the moment when human movement reached its natural expansion? In this history for sleep, we do not answer definitively. We observe gently. La Navidad's silence becomes symbol, a reminder that first steps echo longer than intended. As night deepens over Hispaniola in our imagination, the ruins fade into shadow. The Taíno world continues, though altered. The Spanish world advances, though unaware of the full cost. The legacy of 1492 rests not only in triumph or tragedy, but in transformation. And as you listen, let the quiet shoreline of La Navidad settle into your thoughts, not as accusation, but as invitation to reflect on how beginnings carry consequences beyond their horizon.
When we step back from the ruins of La Navidad, when we allow the smoke to clear and the silence to settle, what remains is not only a collapsed fort, but a turning of the human story. In this history for sleep, we move slowly through that turning. The consequences of 1492 do not stay confined to one island or one generation. They ripple outward, touching continents, reshaping identities, altering power. The fate of La Navidad becomes a quiet prologue to something larger and far more enduring, the establishment of colonial patterns that would define centuries. Columbus, returning to Hispaniola, does not abandon his vision. Instead, he interprets the destruction as justification for firmer control, stronger fortifications, deeper assertion of Spanish authority. The discovery of America shifts from fragile encounter to organized expansion. In this dark history, whispered gently rather than sharply, we sense how quickly hope can harden into hierarchy. Settlements multiply, systems of tribute begin to form. Indigenous communities, including the Taíno people whose lives we have followed with such tenderness, find themselves drawn into structures they never sought. The paradise once described in Columbus's diary now exists alongside new tensions, new imbalances. In this relaxing bedtime history, we avoid the harshest details, yet we acknowledge the shift. The age of exploration reveals itself as an age of ambition layered with unintended cost. The Caribbean islands' history becomes the first laboratory of empire in the Atlantic world. What began as curiosity becomes administration. What began as awe becomes policy. And yet, in this history for sleep, we pause not only to observe transformation, but to reflect. Stoic thought invites us to consider the nature of inevitability. Was the meeting of old world and new world always destined to unfold in imbalance? When technology, navigation, and economic hunger align, do they create currents too strong for individual restraint? Columbus himself, shaped by his era, believed he served crown and God, driven by the search for Cipangu, for wealth, for glory.
The Taíno, shaped by their own traditions, welcomed strangers as guests before understanding the permanence of their arrival. Neither side fully grasped the magnitude of the moment. In this bedtime history, that shared human limitation becomes central. History is often propelled not by pure malice or pure innocence, but by partial understanding. The legacy of a lost paradise is therefore layered. It is loss, yes. It is change, undeniably. But it is also revelation. The Columbian Exchange, which we traced through food and biology, now intertwines with governance and worldview. The Atlantic ceases to be barrier and becomes bridge. Europe expands outward. The Americas transform inward and outward simultaneously. New societies will emerge from this meeting, shaped by resilience, adaptation, and survival. In this history for sleep, we allow complexity to remain gentle. We do not reduce 1492 to a single moral. We allow it to remain human. The consequences of 1492 continue to echo in language, culture, trade, migration. They echo in debates about memory and commemoration. How do we remember Columbus? As explorer? As initiator of exchange? As catalyst of conquest? The answer shifts depending on vantage point. In this reflective close to our dark history, we do not force resolution. Instead, we return to the shoreline of La Navidad in imagination. The tide moves in and out, indifferent to human ambition. Stars rise over Hispaniola just as they did that December night in 1492. Empires rise and fall. Paradises are imagined and lost. Yet humanity continues forward, carrying both light and shadow. As you drift toward sleep, let that image settle softly. A world divided for millennia, suddenly connected. A paradise encountered, altered, remembered. The legacy of 1492 is not a single ending. It is a beginning that continues still. And in this history for sleep, we rest not only in judgment, but in awareness that every turning point carries within it both wonder and consequence, braided together like currents beneath the Atlantic waves.
The year 1492 draws to a close. The ships have anchored. The ink has dried upon the page. The waves that once carried uncertainty now move in steady rhythm beneath a quiet sky. In this final chapter of our history for sleep, we begin to slow everything down. The discovery of America, the meeting of worlds, the rise and fall of La Navidad, the Columbian Exchange, the storms and the silences, they settle now like sand sinking gently through water. This is not an ending filled with noise. It is a safe landing, a soft harbor. In this sleep meditation history, imagine once more the small ships, the Nina, the Pinta, rocking lightly at anchor. The Atlantic, which roared with winter storms, now breathes in long, patient swells. Above, the stars appear exactly as they did on that October night when the first cry of "Tierra" broke the darkness. But tonight, there is no urgency in that cry, only memory, only distance. As we drift through this deep sleep story, allow the images to return not sharply, but gently blurred at the edges. Guanahani at dawn, its palms whispering in warm air. The Taíno stepping forward with open hands. Columbus staring toward an imagined Cipangu that never appeared. The wooden beams of La Navidad rising and then fading into ash. The invisible exchange of seeds, animals, and unseen microbes crossing oceans. These moments do not demand judgment now. They simply exist within the long river of time. In this ASMR history ending, we let the current carry us.
The year 1492 did not resolve neatly. It did not close its own questions. It began threads that would stretch across centuries. Yet tonight, we are not tracing every thread. We are resting beside the loom. The age of exploration continues beyond our horizon. But here, in this gentle pause, we feel only the rhythm of water against hull. Listen closely in your imagination. The soft creak of wood expanding in cool night air. The faint slap of tide against the side of a ship. The distant call of a seabird settling on darkened shore. In this history for sleep, sound becomes comfort rather than alarm. The ocean that once symbolized danger becomes cradle. The past that once felt turbulent becomes steady narrative. The discovery of America becomes not a clash, but a memory drifting farther from view. As breath slows, imagine yourself standing on a quiet deck. The sails are furled. Lantern light glows softly. No commands are shouted. No maps are unrolled. Only the horizon remains, wide and patient. The Columbian Exchange continues somewhere beyond sight, reshaping kitchens and fields. But here, in this moment, the movement feels distant, almost like a dream remembered upon waking. The fate of La Navidad rests in shadow, its lessons absorbed into the wider human story. Consequences of 1492 ripple outward still, yet their sound is now faint, like echoes across water at night. This is the safe landing. You have traveled across oceans of history, through dark history and bright revelation, through storms and stillness. And now you return not to a port of Spain or an island of the Caribbean, but to rest. Let the final image linger, a ship rising and falling slowly on midnight swells, the sky vast above, the world connected beneath, history continuing quietly without demand. In this deep sleep story, nothing more needs to be solved, nothing more needs to be held. The year 1492 closes its chapter not with finality, but with breath. And as you drift further, let that breath become your own, slow, steady, untroubled, carrying you gently away from shore and into sleep. And now, as the final lantern dims along the imagined shoreline, we allow the story to loosen its grip entirely. In this history for sleep, there is nothing left to prove, nothing left to analyze. The year 1492 has done what it was always going to do. It opened a door, it connected oceans, it reshaped maps, and then it kept moving forward without waiting for applause or regret. In this deep sleep story, we step away from the urgency of names and dates. Columbus no longer stands at the center. The Taíno no longer wait in the clearing. The ships no longer strain against wind. Everything becomes softer, farther away. The Atlantic returns to being only water. The Caribbean islands' history becomes a whisper carried by tide. The Columbian Exchange becomes invisible threads woven quietly through kitchens, fields, and distant markets. In this sleep meditation history, imagine the camera of your mind slowly rising above the sea. The ships grow smaller. The islands become green brushstrokes against blue. The continents, once separated by myth and distance, now appear connected beneath drifting clouds. No borders, no banners, only land and water meeting in patient curves.
The consequences of 1492 continue, yes, but tonight we are not tracing them. We are floating above them. The fate of La Navidad rests like a forgotten footprint on sand, soon smoothed by tide. The dark history that followed settles into archives in memory, no longer sharp, no longer loud. What remains is rhythm. In this ASMR history ending, listen once more to the ocean. Slow inhale, slow exhale. The tide moves in, the tide moves out, just as centuries move in and out of human awareness. The discovery of America, so thunderous in textbooks, becomes simply a moment within a vast continuum. Before 1492, oceans rolled. After 1492, oceans rolled. Stars burned overhead long before ships crossed, and they burn still. Let that continuity calm you. Let it remind you that history, however dramatic, exists within something larger and steadier than ambition. As you drift further, imagine lying on the deck of a quiet vessel under a sky untouched by city light. The Milky Way stretches wide above you. No commands, no maps, no gold, no empire, only breath and starlight. The age of exploration becomes just another chapter in the endless exploration of human curiosity. In this history for sleep, curiosity no longer rushes outward, it turns inward, becoming awareness. You have traveled through storms, through first contact, through ambition and consequence. And now there is only gentle rocking. The safe landing is complete. If thoughts arise, let them pass like distant sails on the horizon. If images return, Guanahani's palms, the wooden beams of La Navidad, the small ships battling Atlantic storms, allow them to fade as mist dissolves at sunrise. The world of 1492 no longer demands your attention. It thanks you quietly for witnessing it. And as this deep sleep story reaches its softest edge, imagine the ocean smoothing into glass. The wind stills, the lantern extinguishes, the horizon blurs into darkness. History continues somewhere beyond your dreams, but here, in this moment, you are anchored in calm. The final wave rolls beneath you. The final star flickers overhead. And then, without ceremony, without sound, you drift, not into another chapter, but into rest.